Good morning, viewers. Bonjour, bon dia. And my name is Dr. Amina Fernandez Pilgrim, and I'm your host today. And I have the pleasure of interviewing one of our premier candidates for mayor of Boston, Mr. John Barros. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's great to be with you this morning. So I want to know something about you that the viewers might not already know. And I know that you have a passion for the creative arts. Could you tell us a little bit about your vision for transforming the cultural life of the city and what that would look like under your administration?
That's a good question. I am an artist. I am trained on the djembe, and so I play the djembe, but I've also self-trained on the drums, so I play the drums. And as an artist, I have a great appreciation for the arts, and I believe that Boston can do a lot more in supporting artists. I have personally invested in the arts capacity of the community by opening a restaurant, Restaurant Cesaria, on Bowden Street in Dorchester, that serves Cape Verdean food, really helping to accentuate the culinary arts and the food and bringing Cape Verdean cuisine to Boston, but also allows for space for live music. And so we have local artists that come and play all the time and sing, and it's been called a cultural center, an art center in the neighborhood for local artists that travel from overseas to come to play at Restaurant Cesaria. So I believe that Boston can do more of that. I believe Boston can create more space for local artists to contribute to the economy. By playing at a restaurant, you're helping a restaurant improve its business. You also providing artists an opportunity to make money, because every time they play at the restaurant, they get paid, and then a lot of artists sustain their livelihood that way, and so it helps to create a space for artists to really develop music and culture. Boston can do more. We can provide more spaces, and it's done oftentimes by small businesses in the neighborhood. We need to give small businesses the licenses to not only serve liquor, but to also have the ability to have live music, and then encourage small businesses to provide more venues for the arts.
You mentioned local artists being able to have an important role in the community, and we know that many of our youth are among those local artists. Can you talk a little bit about your relationship to the youth? Obviously, you have a history of working with youth and youth empowerment, but maybe connect it a little bit to that vision for creative arts.
Well, as you know, I've been working in Boston for 24 years, trying to improve life for Bostonians, and there's a special place in my heart for young people, for the youth. And I think I got started at the age of 14. I got started at the age of 14 and started to contribute at the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative through my church, trying to improve my neighborhood. And the only reason I was able to do that is because somebody gave me an opportunity. Somebody gave me a job, they let me be in a program. So we have to continue to do that for young people in our city. And the first project I was on was to design and paint a mural. And we engaged youth in our neighborhood for 3 summers. Over hundreds of youth were engaged in this idea for a mural. The young people planned, we got together and we thought about what we would paint on that wall, and we decided to paint local heroes and show the different cultures in the neighborhood. Haitians, show Cape Verdeans, show Irish, show Italian, show Latinos from Puerto Rico, from Dominican Republic. And the mural is there today on Dudley Street. On the 3rd summer, when we painted the mural, all the art experts said, oh, we're going to need graffiti guard. This was painted up in 1993. We need graffiti guard because they're going to mess it up. People are going to put things over the mural. And the youth, we didn't really pay attention to the graffiti guard, and we actually forgot to put graffiti guard on it. No one's touched it since. The young people really appreciate the arts. They really appreciated their participation in the arts and what it meant to them. And the only thing that anybody's ever added to the mural was their name. On the side of the wall where we painted up all the names of the people who participated, young people would come and put their name there too, because they wanted to be part of that arts project. Arts is a really important way to do community building, build skills with young people, and make them feel part of our community.
Right. It sounds like you've done a lot to really be true to your word and make young people feel like they have a place at the table in the city. Let's talk to the parents in the audience a little bit. I'm a mother, And right now, I don't live in the city of Boston, but what would Boston look like under your administration that would entice me to move into the city and to be able to raise a son there?
Absolutely. So the first and most important thing is Boston, under my administration, we will make sure that every child has a quality seat in a quality school, that they're getting quality education. And Boston has an opportunity to do that. We have schools that are excellent. We have schools that have waiting lists of hundreds of parents. But then we have schools that are not doing so well. We have schools that are failing our children. And we can't have that kind of gap. We can't have that kind of achievement gap between schools or that kind of achievement gap between races and gender. So Boston needs to really invest in our schools and invest in making sure that the things we're doing in the schools that are working are the things we're doing that we should be doing in schools that are not working. You know, I'll name 4 things. We need a longer school day in all of our schools. Right now, the short school day doesn't work. We need to make sure that we're providing youth opportunity for the arts, for enrichment, for more tutoring, for more programs that are hands-on, for more workshops, really engaging them and making sure that they are reading to grade level. We also need to make sure we are supporting the development of our teachers and school leaders. And so as mayor, I would invest more money in teacher development. We've already introduced a teacher evaluation program that's been really working well. Well, when we tell a teacher they're not doing well in something, we need to provide the kind of services and training that'll make them improve. Third, we need better facilities. We need better facilities than some of the buildings we have in Boston. If I'm a parent and I walk into some of those schools, I wouldn't send my child to that school. Facilities matters. We cannot expect teachers to teach and students to learn in a school building that is not built for that, without the proper textbooks, without the proper papers, et cetera. And so I think that's an investment we need to do, and it's a long-term investment. We need a facilities plan that is not just looking for a year, but looking at 5, 10, 20 years down the line. And then lastly, I would say partnerships make schools stronger. The first partnership and the most important partnership is with the parents. And so parent engagement in all our schools, and making sure the schools are ready to receive parents and are encouraging parents to come in and have the kind of culture that they need the parents to feel supported by. Parent engagement is paramount. And then there are community organizations and agencies such as the one that I ran for 13 years, the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative, that's ready to help schools with, before school programs or after school programs, or finding volunteers and making sure that schools have what they need. And those partnerships are important, and we need to make sure that Boston Public Schools is ready to support that partnership. And the only way we can do these things is making sure that all the schools have the resources they need and the authority they need to make these decisions.
Okay, you're very convincing about schools. What about affordable housing?
Well, affordable housing has been a passion of mine. We have a city that is attracting a lot of luxury condos. People want to come back and live in Boston. The downtown is booming. We're building condos everywhere. It's the fastest growing residential neighborhood in Boston. It's downtown Boston. It's the fastest growing area with children in Boston. And it's amazing that families are coming back to Boston in that way. Except they're almost all luxury condos. We're not building enough affordable housing. You can hear people in different neighborhoods talk about how Boston is more and more expensive. Well, we can't build a Boston just for the rich. And we've got to make sure that Boston is serving everyone. It's important for Boston. It's important for Boston to have all income levels in the city, or else we can't sustain the city. And that's why affordable housing would be a passion, would be a real priority for my administration. I've been working at Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative building affordable housing for the last 24 years, 13 years as executive director. We've helped sponsor the development of more than 800 affordable housing units. 225 units have been on our land trust, permanently affordable units that will always be affordable for people in that neighborhood. Boston needs to continue to build affordable housing and make sure that a part of that is permanently affordable housing, so we can always have people have a place that they can buy that will always be affordable. And we also need to build it in every neighborhood. We can't just concentrate affordable housing in some neighborhoods in Boston. Downtown needs to have affordable housing. Our Seaport District, Innovation District, needs to have affordable housing. We need to have affordable housing in a way that it's also mixed income. not just low income, but low income, and then moderate income and middle income to market. And we need a city that is a city for everyone and not a city just for the few.
I appreciate that. Mentioning a city for everyone, Boston has changed tremendously since maybe you or I were in high school, and we know that there's now a majority of people of color. Can you talk a little bit about your own understanding or your comprehensive view of the importance of diversity? You mentioned gender diversity already, you mentioned economic diversity, so talk a little bit more about that inclusive city for everyone where those people of color have high numbers.
Absolutely. I think Boston became a city of majority people of color in the early 2000s. And today, I think some 54% of the city is of color. And which is why I think you also see 6 of the 12 candidates for mayor are candidates of color. Boston's a different city. It's a different city than the city that was throwing rocks at children of color as we were trying to integrate our school system. It's a different city than the city that people remember, and I remember you couldn't walk to South Boston as a black man, as an immigrant. You couldn't go to certain parts of the city. Boston's changed, and part of that change needs to also be reflected in the voting pattern, which is why it's important for all of our residents, particularly immigrants, particularly residents of color who have not participated in the voting process, to participate in the voting process. Because in one way we can have residents of color who are just there, right? And it really doesn't mean anything. But our participation really makes it that Boston is a city that is building on its diversity. And so our participation in the economy, making sure we have jobs, making sure that, in fact, the jobs in Boston go to residents, and they're going to residents of color as well as other residents, and which is why I worked at the Dudley Street Enabled Initiative to improve the goals that we had for local hiring. And in a project that we did in building a community center, we were able to make sure that, and this was a $35 million project, we were able to make sure that 54% of those that were hired on that project were local, 52% were employees of color, and 15% women, because these were construction jobs, and women typically don't participate in construction jobs, and so we drove that number up. And then we made sure that 57% of the contracts that were given for the construction went to women-owned or minority-owned businesses. That kind of participation really honors the diversity of Boston and allows everyone to be a part of the prosperity of the city. Well, that kind of participation also needs to exist in the voting patterns. Right now, only 38% of those who vote are voters of color. We need to drive that up. We need to get closer to 53%, the number of the residents of color in Boston. And so I'm working on that, and we have people working on that all over the city to make sure that our residents are coming out to vote. It's critical. It's important that people in the city of Boston of all color participate in the election.
Well, as an educator and a community organizer, I definitely agree with you, and I hope that viewers, I hope you're paying attention, and I hope that you will, in whatever way you can, get out and civically engage yourselves, your neighbors, your family members, and particularly youth. Let's come back to youth again for a moment. If I'm someone who's just about to register to vote and vote for the first time, in the last segment, the last moments that we have, convince me why I should vote for you.
Well, I appreciate the question. I appreciate all the viewers who are watching the program. And when we think about young people, I think the young people have an opportunity to play a different role in this election. This election, not only is Boston more diverse, but Boston is a city where the young people haven't really participated in our electoral politics. The average age of a voter in a mayoral preliminary is 55 years old. That means the young people aren't voting. We need our youth to come out, to register, and to vote. We need to make sure that everyone in Boston is participating in the decisions of what's happening in Boston. And perhaps the most important decision for us today is who is leading our city. Boston is a city where the city of Boston employs 17,000 employees. with a budget of $2.6 billion. And those resources and those jobs need to be equally spread out throughout our city. We need to make sure that all of our neighbors are getting the services they need. A vote for me would be a vote for quality public education for all of our children, making sure that those who speak second languages, those who are coming from a poor situation, poor context, are getting the services they need in our public schools and that they're getting the quality education that they deserve. A vote for me would make sure that everyone is participating and all the small businesses of all the neighborhoods are getting the kind of supports that they need to be strong, to provide jobs, and to provide for their families. A vote for me would make sure that Boston's neighborhoods are safe. We can't have a city where 80% of the violence is happening in 3 neighborhoods: Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan. We've got to create safe neighborhoods for all of our neighbors, for all of our families. And that means that the mayor needs to pay attention and strengthen our neighborhoods and making sure our neighborhoods are thriving and healthy. A vote for me would make sure that Boston is working for everyone. Vote John Barros on September 24th and make sure that Boston is hearing your voice and that the mayor will be working for you in City Hall.
Thank you, viewers. Again, we encourage you to get out into your communities and participate in the upcoming primary, or if you're not in Boston, participate in any way that you can in becoming active in your communities. Thank you.